Let's take a look at this video, then I'll make some comment about Rabbi Shmuley.
Turned it all completely, immediately, into an ad hominem onslaught against Candace.
How could you possibly say that? You are speaking to a woman who says the Jews are a ring of demonic pedophiles, and you're saying that I have no right to defend my people. You know, Piers, you have to stop this once and for all. There was nothing ad hominem at all.
All right.
When Candace says that the black community
you've had your say.
is a bunch of crybabies,
okay.
Everything I said was policy. I could not disagree more.
Candace will now get the same amount of time, if you want it, Candace, to respond.
Thank you, Piers. And I don't think I really do need to respond to the ad hominem attacks. I think actually one of the things that plausibly unites people across all religions, Muslims, Jews, Christians, is that we all recognize that Rabbi Shmuley is unhinged. He's just mentally, in my view, unwell. And I don't say that as an attack. I say that as just a reality, because I've never seen someone just make things up out of thin air that were never said. And trying to screen that as a defense of black people. The black people will never accept Rabbi Shmuley after Michael Jackson put him on a list of people who he felt were ruining his life. So you can stop your pleas with Black America, they won't work. Now, going back to the context of what you've asked us to speak about today, you know, I think one of the things that the world is recognizing, and what we've always recognized, is that there are radical fringe sects that break out within every single religion, amongst every race. There's white supremacy, there's black supremacy, there's radical Islam, there are all of these Christ cults around the world. And I think right now it's important for people to understand that radical Judaism is also a thing, and you're watching an example of it right now on your screen. The person sitting across from me, or sitting next to me, I guess, it posted on his Facebook page in 2016 a tribute to someone who he said was his mentor. That was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. He said he was his mentor and his friend. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, there were some Jews who believed that he was and is the Messiah. So rejecting Christ, but believing that that rabbi was his Messiah. Now, you may remember in the news recently, there was this radicalized faction of the Lubavitch Orthodox community in Brooklyn that were digging tunnels in Brooklyn and hurling benches at police officers. Well, and by the way, this is per the Times of Israel, that faction of individuals are followers of Rabbi Schneerson. So again,
Okay, so just to make a few points here, guys, about Rabbi Shmuley. His Botek, whatever, and his daughter, they have filed a complaint against Candace Owens to FBI. So this guy is someone who will go after you, your personal state, your name, your presence online. He is gonna go after all of it to defame you. And this time we have heard this news. It was published 2 weeks ago that he and his daughter indeed take that step to go to FBI and complain about Candace Owens. This is something unheard of, that a rabbi would do that based on lies and false accusations. Rabbi Shmuley also disrespected Norman Finkelstein on his Twitter and on Jewish media outlets, calling him a traitor. And not only that, he also claimed that he took down, quote unquote, I took down Norman Finkelstein. And that's what he said, and this is how he will do all the personal attacks to people whom he thinks will be problematic and their voices. Now, Alan Dershowitz, Shmuley, he said, the Shmuley, he lied, Rabbi Shmuley. So this is coming from Alan Dershowitz. He's a Jew himself. He accused Rabbi Shmuley of lying to cover up his hypocrisy. Rabbi Shmuley lies and he makes up stories. He fabricates things. He will make up data, numbers. He will even make up history just to fit his own narrative. And he will present absolutely no fact, no evidence to that effect. Now, Rabbi Shmuley is not just anti-Muslim. He attacks Muslims on camera and also in everyday life. And he is also calling out or accusing Muslim lawyers in the states of being anti-Semite. In other words, he doesn't want Muslim representative in the judicial system in the states if in case anybody will sue any Muslim for voicing their opinion against the Zionist entity and the monster Netanyahu. That's exactly what he is trying to accomplish in the states at the moment, and he does have a lot of supports. He's not alone. Now, there are a lot of other accusations came about Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi Shmuley also talked about Robert Kennedy Jr. He unprecedented Robert Kennedy Jr. attempts to revive campaign after anti-Semitism accusation. So a lot of politicians, in other words, are also coming under attack by Rabbi Shmuley. It is not just the individuals, but also politicians, Muslim representatives, and people like that. Now, we know that this guy, he lies on your face and makes up stories, but the way Candace Owens in this instance, in this debate, call him out is something I want to play a little bit more because I find this to be absolutely on point.
You have Rabbi Shmuley who believes that that's his mentor. They believe that he was the Messiah. What is it? It becomes important to understand, what did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. And you don't have to take my word for it, because if I said it, they would say that's anti-Semitism. You should instead take the word of the two Jewish professors who translated his work. Those authors' names were Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky, and their book was entitled Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel. From that book, we learned that Shmuley's mentor, Schneerson, describes the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. And he says, quote, "Thus, we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. The body of a Jewish person is of totally different quality from the body of all nations of the world." And he talks about the substance of the Jewish body versus the substance of non-Jews, saying that the inner quality, quote, is so different and so great that the body should be considered completely different species. So that is a belief. And you can go through his speeches and you will see that he continually talks about how non-Jews should be treated, and that, again, we are a different species. This is what Rabbi Shmuley believes in. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. I'm glad that you brought up my rhetoric about Black Lives Matter, the organization, and which was basically allowing Black criminals to take to the street to burn down, to loot, and to riot in the name of racism, because it shows that I'm on equal footing here, that across the board, I do not support supremacism, whether it's coming from my community or whether or not it is coming from yours. And I think the entire world is now paying attention and wondering, what is going on in Israel? What is this government? Is this a radical fringe government? And many people are concluding that the answer to that question is yes.
Okay. Not only this, Rabbi Shmuley, if you guys do not know, he is a very close friend of Netanyahu in Israel. He was called out by Piers Morgan in this show. Why don't you criticize or blame Netanyahu? Why do you consider that to be anti-Semite? Because the government, if they do anything wrong, should be called out, should be criticized. But then you mix it up with being anti-Semite. Then he said that I do criticize, this is what he said, Rabbi Shmuley, that I do criticize my dear friend, quote unquote, Netanyahu, for allowing Qatar, an evil government, to host Hamas. And he blames Netanyahu for not doing enough to stop Turkey and other countries in the Middle East supporting Hamas. So when he talks about criticizing his dear friend Netanyahu, he is actually saying, or in a different way, praising his friend, being a nice guy, a lenient guy, somebody who is very much not into any kind of conflict with his neighbor. So that's the only time he thinks that Netanyahu should be criticized, not for the war crimes he is committing, not for the genocide he is conducting in Gaza. Even today as we speak, his dear friend, quote unquote, is killing people. So again, this guy is lunatic, and my last point is that he should not be given any platform. I do not know why Piers Morgan is giving him platform. He's gibberish, he's just a windbag, and of course a big time liar. Should not be given platform, should not have his voice heard by anybody, because every single word he says is a lie. You cannot just listen to him without believing him. If you do so for a very long time, you will start to believe his lies, and this is very, very dangerous. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing.